Morning, Saturday moaners. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are we? How are you? Welcome if you're listening on podcast. Yes, we have a fun-packed morning for you all over the channel. We've got the Curly Cooks coming at 11 o'clock. They've suddenly gone very quiet. It's the quietest they've ever been. We've got Lisa in the house. Oh my God. And we're going to move through the news today. It's a very odd news story, news landscape today. Kind of very little of any real focus in any of the papers. You can feel them all kind of floundering around because Donald Trump hasn't delivered some obvious gaffe. But I've gone into it all. I've had a nuzzle around. I've had a look. I've had a feel. And there are some, there's constantly stuff that's being missed. But how are we all? How is everyone? What's everyone up to this weekend? Anyone looking forward to a nice relaxing one or a busy one or musical chimp? How are you? We're good. Hopefully you caught the incredibly it's incredibly moving and a privilege really to edit the home time vlog last night. If you check it out, there's a moment with Nanny Di, there's Chi-Chi in there, there's the Fab Four heading off to Hove and doing a photo shoot. So please do head over and watch that after this if you fancy a girly weekend away, because that's basically what you get. It's lovely. So what are we going to talk about today? It's a mixed bag really. As I say, we're going to be talking about the ITV presenter caught in a Sharia law row. GMB presenter gets alleges the Sun. I mean, it's one headline, so we need to dig into that. There was the debate during the week. A BBC presenter corrected a link where she said pregnant women and should have said pregnant people. Just want to discuss that. What's the right thing? What should one say? And is there a way to keep everyone happy with pregnant women or pregnant people? I want to talk briefly about in Israel, them having passed, or Netanyahu supporting this law to introduce the death penalty for Palestinian prisoners. And I want to just talk about the kind of perverted logic at the heart of it. And also in other big news, Owen Jones, a brilliant independent journalist, he's tirelessly covered the Gaza genocide. It's not the only thing, but he's been on top of that for the last over 2 years. He's being sued by the BBC. So yeah, this is and that's the story of the Middle East. The BBC News Middle East editor is suing Owen Jones, which I think could end up becoming quite a much bigger story than just a fringe story at the edges of the Gaza coverage. And it deserves to be more than fringe, but unfortunately our mainstream media makes all this sort of stuff fringe. Fee, let's hope we don't just get the curly crisps of Croydon. I think you're going to get more than crisps this week, or crisp packets. So we've got, as I say, we've got a mixed bag there. We're going to talk about the traitors. And if we've got time, we may even talk about Lego. We're going to talk about Trump attacking the BBC. It's weird, isn't it? How the BBC is all things and no things to everyone. It's too extreme. It's not extreme enough. It's too supportive of Israel. It's too anti-Semitic. It's like, it feels literally sometimes like it's a boxer in a boxing ring being boxed by everyone. And the problem with the BBC is it's so multifaceted. Every accusation could be true. Hey, there's a curious one. I'm just distilling my coffee into one place. Twin Peaks. And I do actually have a clip of Zach Polanski, leader of the Green Party, as he was performing brilliantly on the last leg on Channel 4. So I just want to start with this story. This is the GMB star Adil Ray, called in, says the Sun, by bosses after appearing to back Sharia law in New York after Mayor Zoran Mamdani's win. Again, this is allegedly. If you don't know who, let me just slide over. This is Adil Ray, GMB presenter. He's also a smooth radio DJ. This is the post he posted. Some say Mamdani may implement Sharia law. He might. At the heart of Sharia is social justice, welfare, fairness, charity, and community cohesion. Most Muslim countries operate a hybrid of Sharia and civil law, most countries are slowly reforming and abandoning unethical practices despite the West's portrayal. Now, I think what he was going for there was a clarification of a rather jaundiced and propagandized understanding of Sharia. Much in the same way that we wouldn't all hold every Jewish person accountable for the way in which certain aspects of the Jewish religion are interpreted to justify the killing of Palestinians. Do you get me? I mean, you know, there are many the vast majority of Jewish people in the world are anti what Israel are doing. But Israel and the extremists in Israel that are committing a genocide and committing a slow motion genocide in the West Bank, they often refer to their religion. They often refer to these biblical kind of, tomes of kind of religiosity and belief and faith as a kind of, as a land deed and a justification and a contract, really, for them to be the chosen people. And we wouldn't, and what I'm trying to say is, we wouldn't just define the Jewish faith based on the extremist behaviors of the Israeli far-right fascists that are in government. That's kind of easy. I think it's easy enough for us to be able to understand that there are gradations to everything. Like there's crazy American evangelicalism and lunacy. There's also your kind of, I popped up to Southwark Cathedral 4 weekends ago and heard the most radical, what do they call when a priest sermon from a priest who was rational, liberal, progressive, etc. So, you know, there are hues, aren't there, to every religion. And I think what Adderley is saying here is the term, and he's right. I think we hear Sharia law and we just hear all of the, and we just see and we just imagine all of the extremes, all of the egregious kind of curtailing of civil rights. But what he was just trying to make a point here was that there are many, many aspects of the faith and of Sharia that are not simply oppressive, etc. Explaining, not backing, says Janina M. I think that's a fair description. I'm just going to pop the headline up so people know what the hell we're talking about. It's okay to talk about, Elaine Denning, it's okay to talk about their good points. It's what they oppose, which people in this country, especially women, can't get behind. Absolutely, absolutely agree. And I think in what he was saying was it's not all bad. And where it is bad, there is much more, there is more of an attempt to progressively push against it than the West would have any vested interest in revealing or showing. Shakir al-Bad, there is Hindutva nationalism in India that's causing terrible violence and extremism. Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is, every single faith, good morning, Carla, every single faith has extremism in it. Every faith. And to pretend that, you know, some don't is just ridiculous. Just having a sip. What do you think of this story, guys? Do you think he was, okay, here's a different question. That's where I think he's coming from for sure. But the fact that he's been hauled in, do you think he was misguided in posting it? Do you think perhaps potentially it's too nuanced or sophisticated a thought to simply post on Instagram and not expect some kind of backlash? Musical Chimp, I'm against religion and state. I am sectarian. Morning, Carla H. Nope, keep religion, law, DN something out of UK. Okay, I think that's backing up what you're saying below. I think perhaps it's too... Would ITV, asked Celery Jones, good question, be in uproar if Kate had said it and not Adil? Potentially. I'm not entirely sure whether there is... Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. I think in a weird way, the fact that Adil is Muslim, I mean, I think that perhaps makes it more complicated, doesn't it? I mean, on the one hand, they might not like it, but then on the other, they might be kind of caught in that place of, it might just be too sophisticated a message for a mainstream broadcaster even. But anyway, that's one of the big stories today. But another story in the week, it's been a week of broadcast stories, hasn't it? What with Sky allegedly, or putting in an offer to buy ITV. BBC staff were among complainers in the Martine Croxall women row. The presenter was investigated after eye-rolling and changing the script from pregnant people to pregnant women. This is Martine Croxall. If I'm brutally honest, I haven't liked in any way, shape or form the way she has interviewed or cross-examined and been a mouthpiece. It's not her responsibility herself. We're going to get to that in a minute. It's probably the editorial team at BBC News. No, he didn't say it on air, Janina. He posted it on his Instagram. I think that he just sticking with the Adil Ray for a moment. I think that he should be allowed to say it, and ITV have a right to ask for clarification on what he meant, Shakir Al-Bad. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. It feeds into some people's thoughts that Muslims are taking over the West. Musical chimp. If Sharia law comes into effect, would it become impossible for us to criticize Islam and the Prophet Muhammad? I don't know. What do you mean? Like it's impossible to criticize Israel because you become accused of anti-Semitism? I don't know. I mean, I think there is a precedent for certain faiths and religions and denominations to build a hefty wall of propaganda around itself so that you can't in any way challenge people who do terrible things in that faith's name. And I think one needs to avoid that with Islam, and one needs to avoid that with Jewishness. I just think it needs to be equivalent. I just think we are being propagandized and gaslit in one area, and we're all quite willing as a culture to be gaslit by the Zionist propaganda machine. But I just wanted to ask, does anyone, so this idea of pregnant women or pregnant people, why is this such a hot potato? This is a tricky one for me, having grown up in a feminist household. I don't think it's anti-trans to want to protect the experiences or the nature or the biological kind of processes of what it means to be a woman, and to cherish them as a female thing, as a woman thing, to amplify them as a woman thing, and to sort of relish them and be proud of them and talk about them. So I don't see that. I don't see having joy in womanhood as being anti-trans, and I don't understand how we've at any point got to a place where to definitively understand what a woman is somehow means you can't understand what it means to be a trans woman or to be a trans man or a trans. So when I saw this story, and I thought, again, this is red meat, this is the culture wars, it's the right-wing press wanting to say this is ludicrous, pregnant people. Look, by and large, the vast majority, biologically, as I understand it, biologically, yes, there might be, medically, the capacity to allow someone who's transitioned to carry a baby, but it's really quite rare. It's really a tiny scintilla of a percentage. So I think to sort of define pregnancy as, in a sense, the preserve of women at the moment is okay, personally. But I think it's also okay to use the term if there is now a section of society, albeit small, that weren't biologically born women who can be pregnant. If that is now possible, I'm not going to tell, again, I'm not au fait with this. Is it not all right to also call them pregnant people? But don't remove one in preference for the other. This is the part of the story I don't understand. Pregnant women or pregnant people, why not both? If we are wanting to be understanding and respectful, as we should be of everyone and how anyone identifies, why can't you say both? Why does it have to be one or the other? I don't understand, because this story, let me just find, I'm sorry, let me just find the Martine Croxall. Oh, hang on, I've got the story on my phone. I just want to find, because she this has caused an absolute to-do. So BBC staff were among those who lodged complaints with the broadcaster over the newsreader Martine Croxall's changing of the phrase from pregnant people to women during a bulletin. Croxall was ruled against by the corporation's executive complaints unit on Thursday for appealing to roll her eyes. I mean, maybe not roll your eyes. That I can understand that. Her actions earned praise from J.K. Rowling and Martina Navratilova, along with the support of BBC News bosses. But Fraser Steele, the head of the executive complaints unit, said she had breached guidelines. It was the facial expression which accompanied the change of people to women that laid it open to the interpretation that it indicated a particular viewpoint in the controversy. Now, okay, well, that's interesting, isn't it? So I think the eye roll is not what a newsreader should do. Do you get me? I think an eye roll is not what a newsreader should do. But I really want to go back to this. I don't understand why. And this is how women, to avoid any, look, no one should feel marginalized. No one should feel judged, and there should be no prejudice against anyone for anything that they identify as. But equally, there should be no prejudice against women who want to protect their womanhood, especially after decades and centuries of fighting for equality. To then sort of say now fold over and just kind of, you know, fade away and don't argue that stuff doesn't mean you want. I don't understand why it's become anti-trans to cherish and identify. I mean, it almost feels like sometimes to strongly identify as a biological woman is somehow being classified as anti-trans, and it just isn't. It just isn't. And so if I was the news editor on this, I would have written, and again, to make sure that there was total inclusivity, I'd have said pregnant women or people, just pregnant women or people. So then you're recognizing pregnant women, but you're recognizing that however sizable or not sizable section of society that shouldn't feel left out. I think, does that not? Freely speaking, please explain. Please explain, how can you not agree with women not being able to just as rightly as a trans woman or a trans man should be able to absolutely champion their identity, and all of their rights should be protected, and all of their, you know, freedoms and liberties cherished. How can it be the case for one, but not for women? I don't understand. It seems odd. It's like it becomes very eggshelly. And I think in creating the eggshells, it creates resentment, and it potentially fuels anti-trans sentiment. But I'm keen to understand why you don't agree. I'm really, what do people think? And again, it's not about saying, like, I don't like when J.K. Rowling sat on her boat with a cigar and was like, I thought that's not a nice way to go about this. I don't like her kind of mocking, arrogant, supercilious ways. I don't like her tone, and I don't like the way she goes about it, because it's pejorative, it's judgy, it's snide. But I do think we've kind of lost sight of the fact that, let's say that gender identity is a rainbow, and a beautiful rainbow it is, and I look like Donald Trump, and I don't mean to. Women in that rainbow are as valid and as to be protected as trans women, trans men, men, and everything in between. I recognize that, you know, that's a gross simplification of gender identity. Let me have a read of some of your comments here. The Equality Act includes all genders, Bonnie Delaney. Yeah, but explain why you disagree with what I'm saying, because I'd love to know what in what I've said is contentious. I really would. I'm not being facetious. I genuinely, Bonnie Delaney, just because I know you said it, was it you? I think it was you, Bonnie, who said it. Just explain why you don't. What don't you agree with? King Bridget, I identify as non-binary. When I had my kids, I would have preferred not to have some judgmental person roll their eyes at me when I said that my pronouns were they, them. Entirely agree. I think the eye rolling is wrong, because the eye rolling also as a news presenter, as a newsreader, tells the audience that she has an opinion on this and she shouldn't have it. So I agree, totally agree. But okay, so question for you, King Bridget, would you be happy in that say story for them to have said pregnant women and pregnant people? Would that not catch everyone? Does that not catch everyone? I don't think you exclude one or the other. But I don't think you exclude women in preference for something. Do you get me? I'm just curious to know if you agree, Kim Bridget. As a woman, I know I wanted to be referred to as a pregnant woman during my pregnancies. And yes, say pregnant woman or people. Women have fought hatred over the years for rights, and we are still fighting. Carla Hatcham, this is our society, always fighting one against the other. Creatorholic, most pregnant people will be women, not all. Don't forget intersex people as well as trans. Absolutely. Agree, should be able to refer to all, can't rule out women. And again, even though it's probably a very healthy minority, it's a minority that needs to be catered for. Absolutely acknowledge that. But I do find this kind of almost hostile pushback against being able to cherish the womanness as well as cherish a trans woman or intersex, or, you know, it just strikes me as unnecessarily conflict driven. Freely speaking, I'm a woman who isn't threatened by trans women or trans men. I am all for inclusive language, as we are supposed to be progressive. Language doesn't take my identity away. So you'd be happy with pregnant women and pregnant people. I mean, my line on this news story is they should have used both. Emma Staple, but women are people. So it includes them when they say pregnant people. Yes, I get what you're saying. But why can't we say both? Because the majority are women. I mean, you know, say both. King Bridget would have preferred people. It shouldn't be a fight because women are people. People is inclusive. You see, I don't know if I know what you're saying, but I just don't understand why we can't say both. Because then you're going to remove the sense, rightly or wrongly, you're going to remove a sense of marginalization or diminishing or whatever it is of a huge number of women who aren't then going to be attacking trans rights. This is where I think it gets really tricky. I think both sides need to understand there needs to be a kind of lowering of heat and an increase of tolerance of the use of terms for both sides, and recognizing the sanctity of both sides, for want of a better expression, so that it doesn't fuel anti-trans or anti, what do you call it, feminist kind of sentiment. I think if you, I don't understand why we can't use two words. We're fucking humans with a vocabulary. Use more than two words. It's, you know. But it's a good point, Emma. I mean, I understand what you say. I agree, Emma. But where the problem lies is a cohort of people who want to completely scrub the term pregnant women altogether from use and medical literature. And I don't think that's right. Yeah, I mean, again, on that one, SC, I don't know how. I mean, it's hard to prove whether there's a real desire to kind of scrub it. Is that perhaps a sensationalizing of and inclusive? I just don't understand why inclusivity can't include. It's like, you know, when they used to say ladies and gentlemen in order to kind of break. Can there not be a sort of modern day equivalent of kind of, if it's stuff that affects men, you say men and people, or men and trans men, and if it's women, stuff that principally affects women, you say women and trans women, or women and people. Why can't we just have can say both? I totally agree. King Bridget, I didn't realize that behind the story, her eye roll is wrong. The eye roll is the same as J.K. Rowling sitting on her $1 billion yacht lighting a cigar. What an absolute arse. I mean, you don't do yourself any favors when you're that arrogant and cocksure. Oh, and that's my feeling on that. Stuart G, I'm a gay man. I identify as a gay man. Simple in my, yeah, it's very simple what we identify as. It's when the state or the system needs to encapsulate policy, ideas, thoughts, rules, laws for sections of society. The importance of inclusive language is absolutely crucial, but I think it can be inclusive of both the two biological genders and everything in between all at once. I don't think we necessarily need to remove an acknowledgement of men and women in the debate, because I think it ends up alienating all the wrong people. It feeds the teeny tiny Tommies and all that lot. Okay, well, that's interesting. Thanks, though. Again, you know, I'm always interested to kind of understand, and, you know, in a weird way, Emma Staple, your comment is kind of the strongest, really, because it's kind of like, well, people can't cater for everyone. I suppose so, in a way. I suppose so. It's kind of like, yeah, simple. I just wanted to show you this image because it just drives me mad. Turkey, oh no, it's not this image, it was another one, sorry. Turkey issues its own genocide arrest warrant against Benjamin Netanyahu. And I think this is important, and I think this is good that they're doing this. Israeli PM, ministers and army chief are accused of crimes against humanity. What I like about this is, this isn't for a minute suggesting Turkey is some, absolute, paragon example of no human rights abuses. Absolutely not. But in the absence of an international criminal court or justice system being able to come to a decision or do anything properly or say anything now or decide it's a genocide until the genocide has been done. Oh, yes, look, there's no one left in Gaza. Maybe it was a genocide after all. I quite like the fact that Turkey have just gone, fuck the lot of you. We're just going ahead with our own rules. And there it is, plain and simple. Turkey issues its own arrest warrants. And it's issued them for 37 suspects, which include the Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, Ben Gvir, the Army Chief, Lieutenant Ayal Zamir, and a whole bunch of others. Israel denounced it as a PR stunt, saying Israel firmly rejects with contempt the latest PR stunt by the tyrant. That's smart, isn't it? Israel calling Erdogan, who is pretty tyrannical, a tyrant, when they've got their own little tyrant in the form of this absolute monstrosity of a man. Is Netanyahu ever going to be able to remove the public image of being a genocidal maniac? I don't think so. I think the die is cast, the die is rolled, the hue is cast. What is it? Trouble is, Nettie isn't going anywhere near Turkey. Exactly. I know, it's frustrating, isn't it? He's got more and more places, though, his planes have to avoid, which is kind of entertaining in its own way. No such thing as a Jewish terrorist, says Israeli MP sponsoring bill to execute Palestinians. MK Limor Son HaMelech initiated a bill imposing a death penalty for Palestinian prisoners and said, quite matter-of-factly, it will only apply to those who harm the state of Israel. Now, the reason I wanted you to read that line, don't worry, it's only going to apply to those who harm the state of Israel. Israel, the Israeli government, would claim that probably every single Palestinian on the planet, every Arab in the region, as we've been repeatedly told, because they're living in and under an existential crisis at all times, everyone is a threat to Israel. So my concern and worry with this isn't just some ordinary, let's execute extremist, awful people who've done terrible things, which in and of itself is a breach of human rights. In and of itself is something that I think in the civilized world, unless you're an American, in certain parts of America, you think the death penalty, I'm not entirely sure that's an eye for an eye. I'm not entirely sure about that. What about if you get it wrong? But then within a country where human rights are fucked, the apartheid system is profound, the genocide is nearly complete, the breach of humanitarian law, where your prime minister is a wanted, war criminal by the International Criminal Court, to then bring in a law where you say we will execute those who want to harm the state of Israel when they arrest 10-year-olds for throwing stones at tanks. Pretty much, this is an opportunity for them to not have to bomb and kill people. They can just arrest them and then execute them. There is no end to the ways in which the Israeli regime wants to find ways to dispose of Palestinians. It's quite shocking. What is their criteria going to be, given that it's a safe bet? Most of their judicial system and courts are pretty much kangaroo courts when it comes to the fate of Palestinians. This is just a sanctioning, and Netanyahu supported this. This is a sanctioning of just wanton execution. But look at the way, once again, as a so-called, the way in which Israel and the West likes to telegraph this idea that Israel is this democracy in the West. They have all the spurious kind of set dressing details of civilization. We'll introduce the death sentence for anyone who's anti-Israel, but they just have to be well, you think everyone's anti-Israel. So that means everyone you arrest could be executed. And then when you've got Ben Gvir running around the prisons dribbling like a nutcase, he's just going to point at people, do him, do him, do him. And yet they use these, you know, the spirit, let's pass a bill. It needs 4 readings for us in order for us to annex the West Bank. Oh, it needs 4 readings in the Knesset. We've put a K there because it makes it sound even more official and democratic. We need 4 readings in the Knesset so that we can actually execute anyone who is hostile to the state of Israel. Netanyahu backs controversial death penalty for Palestinians. I mean, come on. But in the same story, this guy says, let me just pull up the headline again for you so you know what I'm talking about. This guy says, no such thing, though, as a Jewish terrorist. Oh, no, there's no such thing as a Jewish terrorist. So it's only people who harm the state of Israel. So Israeli settler terrorists could never be executed. It's literally because they're the chosen people. And just on that note, I just want to show you some footage of some settlers, because we hear about the settlers, and even the documentary by Louis Theroux, which did a great job of demonstrating the horror of the settlers, but we felt had to kind of obviously pull its punches in terms of the footage it showed you. Here's some settler footage, guys. Those innocent, non-terrorist types that are just wanting to settle back in the land that God, apparently God gave them. Invading a Palestinian home, pushing elderly residents around, bullying them. Look, going into their cupboards, stealing stuff from their cupboards. But they just walk in. I mean, imagine that. Imagine tiny Timmy, Tommy, Tom, Tim, Tom, sat down, eating his ginsters, watching an Aston Villa match with a flag draped around him, and then someone just pushed through his front door and said, I want everything in your tool cupboard. Would he? I mean, let's just ask him, would you be all right with that, Timmy, tiny, teeny, tiny Tommy? It is hard to watch. This is the kind of footage that I know my sister-in-law Dina finds the most difficult, because it's not necessarily death, but it's the bullying and the humiliation and the compromising of just the domesticity of life, the basic rights, the sanctity of having a home. And that's nothing. You know, there's footage of them poisoning wells, killing animals, breaking onto farms, stamping on animals' heads. It's just awful. It's just awful. And it's so fucked up over there, guys. It's so fucked up over there that they've even, you know, the guys who were so poorly treated for raping and sexually assaulting the prisoner in the Israeli prison, which I can never pronounce. They're on television crying. Look, masked rapists crying on TV. Oh, we've been completely, extremely complex and challenging. We've been through hell. They've been through hell. The assaulters, the abusers, the rapists have been through hell. If you're so innocent, why have they got masks on? It's a truly fucked up system. And so when we talk about the regime, when we talk about the government, it's not just parked in the government. There is a sensibility that is so fucked up and skew-whiff and amoral and immoral and wrong. There's a profound fucked up problem there. Oh, Coral Roberts, this is what blacks went through in America before the Civil Rights Bill was passed. Absolutely. I'm forever drawing parallels, Coral, with if you want to try and get on board with what this is and put to the side this constant use of it's anti-Semitic to say, it's anti-Semitic to say. Hi, Ashley, sending you love, matey. How are you? Just try and re-understand segregation, apartheid. I think pretty much everyone in the civilized world understands, though as you rightly say, Coral, not everyone does, the clear wrongs there. You just apply that to this and then times it by 20, and you'll get some grab on where we're at. It's got nothing to do with anti-Semitism. Such a Burkish kind of conflation. Okay, so moving. Oh no, hang on. Let's talk about this before we move on to lighter things. BBC editor sues Owen Jones over Israel bias claim. The columnist Owen Jones has said that he will vigorously defend his reporting after the corporation, the BBC's Middle East editor, files a High Court libel claim. This is a curious story. This was, you know, a report that was done and conducted. Owen Jones, Drop Site News, spoke to 13 current and former BBC staffers. I don't know if you remember when this story came out. It was a big deal. And they were talking about how they were pressured, or there was a culture and an environment at the BBC where they needed to minimize or reduce the language that was critical of Israel. And in essence, whitewash some of the kind of severity of what Israel was doing, using the kind of language that minimize, you know, this idea that, you know, Palestinians just drop dead, whereas Israelis always get killed. No one kills Palestinians, they just die. You know, it's kind of like with, you know, just nuanced details, covering certain stories, not covering other stories, you know. And the weirdest thing about this story is that the guy, what's his name? Rafi Berg, BBC Middle East editor, Rafi Berg. This is the weirdest part of all of it. So this is, so the BBC editor, Rafi Berg, has alleged ties with CIA and Mossad, to the point that he's written sort of almost idolatory books that are kind of, you know, admiring of the sophistry of Mossad. I mean, this is a guy who obviously is like, wow, the audaciousness of Mossad and the remarkableness, you know. He's written books, and he allegedly, this is all allegedly, has, you know, it's felt that he potentially has questionable in terms of his required journalistic impartiality as the Middle East editor at BBC News, his required impartiality around Middle Eastern issues. It's felt, and it's inferred, and it's suggested that perhaps his position isn't neutral enough for the journalistic position he holds. And the suggestion in this report that Owen Jones conducted with Drop Site News, and as backed up by 13 staffers at the BBC, was that there was a feeling and a sense that that compromised neutrality was definitely present in the newsroom and in the coverage of the genocide in Gaza. I think there you go. But guess what? I was listening last night to Breaking Point. Have a listen to that. It was a really good roundtable discussion, and this came up in it. And what's odd about this story is that BBC's Middle East editor is suing the journalist Owen Jones for libel after the Gaza conflict, claims spark death threats. So what's happened here is, it's not about whether anything Owen Jones has said is right or wrong. They're not suing Owen Jones or Drop Site News on the rights and wrongs of what they claim. They're suing him on the basis that what he's claimed has led to negative, dangerous death threats, etc. Now, I would have thought that the defense against that by Owen Jones, Drop Site News, or in any situation like this is, yes, that's awful. It's, no one should receive death threats. That's a terrible thing. But you can't hold someone responsible who's conducting journalism for that, can you? Otherwise, doesn't that remove the ability to be journalistic? Just because you run the Middle East department of the BBC News department doesn't mean you're immune to being covered as a news story if it's felt you're not doing your job properly. And so what they're suing him for is reputational or danger, or in essence, I mean, Breaking Point uses this language, I'm not. But in essence, it amounts to, Rafi Berg is, they're suing Owen Jones because effectively the report kind of hurt his feelings and upset people towards him. But isn't that a consequence of what he's done, as the report suggests, rather than the report? And I think what needs to happen with any death threats, as is the case, we've had them, everyone gets them, is you pursue that death threat through the kind of criminal, you know, you call the police, and you go that route, don't you? You don't hold someone responsible if what they're saying and the facts of what they're saying you're not questioning. If the facts of what they're saying you're not challenging, how can you challenge them for the response, however awful, of someone who's read that challenge about, do you get me? And interestingly, Breaking Point make a really interesting point in their discussion last night, YouTube channel Breaking Point. Their point was, is this the beginning of larger organizations, corporations and groups issuing lawsuits against independent journalists because they know that just the cost of trying to defend could break that independent journalist? Now, I think Dropsite News are covering the costs of Owen Jones's pushback on this, and I think they're seeking funding to support in that. But this could be the beginning of a kind of a quite a sort of horrible trend that could start to emerge, which is an attempt to silence critics by threatening them with legal action, knowing that because these are independent journalists or independent commentators, they haven't got a great big corporation behind them that can fight and spend their money on this. But it just strikes me as odd that this is actually, they're not suing Owen Jones or Dropsite News about the facts. They're suing them about the consequential impact of the facts being reported. But that's what a journalist does, which I would argue is what it sounds like the Middle East desk hasn't been doing properly. Rebs 2832. So basically, bad people feel unsafe. They are hoisted by their own petard. Yeah, I mean, you don't want anyone to. No one should feel unsafe. It speaks to a really kind of worrying and upsetting and distressing culture of threat. But threat can come not just in the form of a death threat. A threat can come in the form of hoping that someone is financially destroyed. And I would argue that we've seen evidence of that in the sort of feeding frenzy around Louis Theroux last week, as there was happiness and joy around the fact that British Airways ditched his sponsorship of his podcast, the hope that Netflix might not proudly parade him all over their platform. It doesn't have to be death threats. It can be slow death threats. Horrible. Horrible tendencies. Let's just have a blast, shall we, of Zach Polanski. Let's feel hope. Let's feel hope. Here he is on the last leg.
Jacob said, with Labor reform and the Tories all attacking disabled people, how would the Greens do disability differently?
Nothing about us without us. We need to make sure that disabled people are at the centre of policy around disabled people. Actually, if we create better housing, if we make sure our transport is more accessible, that's good for everyone, especially disabled people.
Who would you cast to play climate change in a movie?
Nigel Farage, he's full of hot air anyway.
Horatio said, why is the Green Party so firmly against nuclear energy?
Because Sizewell C has taken like 27 years to build. It's like creating the fax machine right now. We need to invest in renewable wind and solar.
Many young people feel disconnected from politics. What do you think are the best ways to get them more involved and have their voices heard?
Yeah, stop saying we're inspired by young people. Let's actually help them to get into positions of power.
Nice.
We need to invest in young people, give them the resources, the confidence and the skills to actually represent themselves.
Woo!
Great.
Yes!
Josh.
Do you think you'd be better as a traitor or a faithful?
Claudia Winkleman. I like it when she just shouts at people.
Yeah.
I still can't believe Alan killed Paloma.
Kai said, could you clarify, because some are confused, what the Green Party's stance is on NATO?
Yeah, Donald Trump is an unreliable ally. He's someone who wants to annex Greenland.
Yeah.
I want to look at peace and diplomacy. Working with our European neighbours, that's very threatening.
Great.
Have you ever sacked off a paper straw for a plastic straw? Be honest.
No.
Marty said, do penguins have knees?
The penguins have knees?
Yeah.
If they choose to, however, they self-identify.
I like that. Yeah, he had a sense of humour with himself there. I like that. Lots in the papers about how the celebrity traitors, we talked about this yesterday briefly, has reversed TV's most troubling trend. This is the idea that actually, huge audiences, 11.1 million watched the Celebrity Traitors finale. People are willing to sit down and watch the right kind of content. But this article, which I thought it's an interesting read, talks about, where is it? It's in The Guardian. It talks about how, is it a trend if it's happened once or twice? I mean, it used to happen with Bake Off, didn't it? But is it more about the nature of this project or this show? Is it this particular show? Is it the casting? Or is it, perhaps, as this article suggests, that it's the kind of show that can be really kind of dissected, digested, spread and shared across fandom, memes, influencers can use it, TikTok deals, Can it be spread across social media? So I wanted to ask you guys, how do you account for the huge success? Do you prefer the civilian traitors or do you prefer the celebrity traitors? And is it the format that's the winner here? And how does the format ensure that so many people do sit down to watch TV? Because I was talking yesterday on Coffee Moaning about how maybe, you know, linear TV or old-fashioned TV could become like the stereo where you play vinyl in the corner. It could return to being a sort of an analog indulgence every now and then. How do you account for the success of this series? Victoria Moore says, it's the celeb factor, I think. I only watch celeb version of Big Brother, etc. I think Lisa was saying last night she prefers the civilian version of The Traitors. Steph Schultz is talking about Christine Flack, Caroline Flack's mum, is it? Talking about her new doc, The Treatment and Death of Caroline still hits so sad. Loved her as a presenter. Still can't believe. Spoiler coming up, anyone. If you haven't seen it, where have you been? Still can't believe Alan won, or he was a successful traitor, Stopped watching Last Leg as they joined in the vilification of Corbyn, says Elaine, adding to the witch hunt, which helped the drip leading to election of Johnson. Yeah, fair point. Never watched an episode of The Traitors, Elsa Pop, and I'm pleased. Hate how shows are so blown up. Well, that's interesting. I mean, I think one of the problems I have with it as an analog thing is that because we enjoyed whatever the last series was, it wasn't celeb, but I felt that because we'd missed the first 3, I think they do 2 or 3 a week, is that right? We've missed the first week or the first 2 weeks. One had missed half the fun in a sense, because it's the build-up, isn't it? It's the evolution. But it's amazing how many people say they haven't watched it. Sharon Carter, I haven't watched Traitors before, but love this. I will now watch the normal version now. That's great. So let me just find what my final stories were. Just some. Oh yeah, Trump attacking the BBC, and that's all a bit boring. Okay, yeah, really odd story, this one. Stranger Things. Millie Bobby Brown, there was a whole kind of, she accused David Harbour of bullying, registered a complaint with Netflix, and then last night at the premiere they were seen together, more than happier than ever. So one wonders if that's a fake showbiz story. And I just wanted to show you, this is a nice one as a final one to go out on. Yeah, a bit frustrating if you're listening on podcast. Meet the adult Lego fans transforming their homes for their hobby. And here are some photos of people. Look at that, vast. Look at that. Lego, look, she's even got clouds in the sky, which I think should really be made out of Lego for the complete experience. Look at that. Look, these are people's homes and how they've kind of made them fit their Lego collections in. Look at that. Lego. And look at, oh my God, it's just phenomenal. I do wonder whether actually they've only focused on 2 people and there aren't that many. My son is 20, says Musical Chimp, and loves Lego. Okay, so look, I'm rushing only because in 10 minutes time, we're going to go to the Curly Cooks. God only knows what's happening. Hopefully it's more than a crisp packet. Looking forward to it. We'll see you over there. Anon, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button too. That's always nice. And we'll see you on the other side. 10 minutes, grab a cup of tea or maybe a glass of wine. It's only 10 to 11.